The letter shouldn't have been hers, because Emma had nothing left to inherit. No home, no savings, not even a place she could call permanent. So when she saw the words, "You are the legal heir," she almost threw it away without finishing it. People like her don't receive things. They lose them. Slowly, piece by piece, until there's nothing left. But something about this letter felt wrong. Not suspicious, just deliberate. The envelope was too clean, the paper too official. Her name printed too carefully, like someone had been waiting a long time to write it. And then she saw the name at the bottom. Her grandfather. Emma froze. No one in her family ever talked about him. Not stories, not memories, not even a passing mention. It was as if he had never existed. Or worse, as if he existed, but wasn't supposed to. She hadn't seen him since she was a child. And yet somehow, he had left everything to her. Emma kept reading, expecting money, property, something that made sense. But the letter offered neither. No bank account, no land in the city. Nothing ordinary, just one thing. A cabin, hidden deep in the mountains, and, according to the document, it had been sealed since 1948. Emma frowned. Not abandoned. Not sold. Sealed. Legally. Her eyes moved over that word again. Sealed. People don't seal places unless something inside matters, or something inside shouldn't be touched. A quiet unease settled in her chest. Why would anyone lock away a cabin for over 70 years? And more importantly, why give it to her? That night, sleep never came. Not on the thin mattress beneath her. Not with strangers shifting and whispering around her in the dark. Not with her daughter, Mia, curled up beside her, sleeping peacefully, like she still believed everything was going to be okay. Emma stared at the ceiling, listening to her daughter breathe, and for the first time in a long time, she wasn't thinking about what she had lost. She was thinking about what was waiting, because this didn't feel like luck. It felt like something unfinished, like a question that had been waiting for her. And Emma had spent too much of her life running from problems, from memories, from things she didn't want to face. Maybe this time, she needed to walk toward something instead. By morning, she had made her decision. She borrowed just enough money for a bus ticket, packed everything they owned into a single worn-out bag, and told Mia they were leaving. "Are we moving again?" Mia asked softly. Emma hesitated for just a second, then forced a small smile. "Maybe," she said, "for the last time." The journey took hours. The city faded behind them, concrete turning into empty roads, roads dissolving into endless trees, and with every mile, the world grew quieter. Too quiet. Emma held the letter the entire time, reading it again and again, as if the words might change, explain themselves, but they never did. When the bus finally stopped, it didn't feel like they had arrived. It felt like there was nowhere else left to go, because there wasn't. From there, they had to walk. No signs, no houses, just a narrow trail cutting through thick forest. And silence. The kind of silence that doesn't feel natural. The kind that makes you feel like you've stepped somewhere you shouldn't. Almost an hour later, Emma saw it. Through the trees. A cabin. Small. Alone. Waiting. It stood in the clearing untouched. Not broken by time. Not destroyed. Just preserved. As if time had stopped the moment it was sealed. The windows were boarded, the structure still strong, and on the front door, a rusted metal seal, still intact. After all these years, Emma stepped closer, slowly, her heartbeat steady, but heavy. This wasn't abandonment. This was intention. Someone had made sure this place stayed closed. She reached out, her fingers brushing against the cold metal. And that's when something settled deep in her chest. A realization she couldn't ignore. This cabin hadn't been forgotten. It had been hidden. Emma took a slow breath, tightened her grip, and moved her hand toward the seal. Because whatever was inside had been waiting for a very long time. The metal seal didn't come off easily. It resisted, not like rust, not like age, like it had a purpose, like it wasn't just keeping something out, but holding something in. Emma tightened her grip on the wrench. Her fingers trembled slightly, not from the cold, from something deeper, something she couldn't explain. "Mom!" Mia's voice was small behind her. "Do we have to?" Emma paused. For a moment, she almost listened. They could still leave, walk back down the trail, forget this place ever existed. But reality didn't wait for comfort. There was nothing behind them. No home, no safety, just survival. And something about this place felt like more than that. "It's okay," Emma whispered. She wasn't sure if she was convincing Mia or herself. Then she pulled. The first bolt snapped loose. A sharp metallic crack. Too loud. Too sudden. It echoed through the trees. Emma froze. Her breath caught. Listening. Waiting. But the forest didn't respond. No wind. No birds. Nothing. Just silence. Heavy. Unnatural. One by one, the bolts came free, each sound sharper than the last, until finally, the seal dropped into her hand, cold, solid, and suddenly, useless. For over 70 years, it had kept this place closed, untouched. Untouched for a reason. Emma lowered it slowly to the ground, then turned to the door. The wood looked old, but not weak. It hadn't decayed. It hadn't warped. It had lasted, as if time had been kept away. She placed her hand on the handle and stopped. Her heart wasn't racing. It was heavier than that, like something deep inside her already knew. This was a mistake. "Stay behind me," she whispered. Mia nodded. Emma pushed the door open. Slowly, the hinges groaned, like they remembered how long it had been. A wave of air spilled out, cold, stale, thick with dust, and something else, something older. Emma stepped inside. One step, and stopped. The cabin wasn't empty. It wasn't broken. It wasn't even messy. It looked wrong, not because of what was there, but because of what wasn't. Nothing was disturbed. A wooden table stood in the center, 2 plates still set, a cup resting near the edge, perfectly placed, like someone had been sitting there just moments ago, and then left. Emma's breathing slowed. Her eyes moved carefully across the room. A coat still hung by the door. The fireplace held ashes, undisturbed. A chair slightly pulled back, as if someone had stood up in a hurry. But nothing else showed it. No struggle. No sign of leaving. Just absence. "Mom," Mia whispered. "It looks like someone lives here." Emma swallowed. "It doesn't." But her voice lacked certainty. She stepped further inside. The floor creaked softly beneath her, but it felt strong, too intact. Dust floated in the air, but not enough. Not enough for 70 years. Everything was preserved, not by accident, by intention. On the far wall, something caught her eye, a calendar, still hanging. Emma walked toward it slowly. Her fingers brushed the page. October. She froze. Who leaves in the middle of a month, she murmured, and never comes back? The words lingered in the air. Then, Mia's voice. Mom, what's this? Emma turned sharply. Mia stood near a shelf by the window, holding something. Not a book. A journal. Emma's chest tightened. Don't move, she said quickly, stepping toward her. Mia handed it over. The cover was worn, but protected, like someone had made sure it would last. Emma opened it carefully. The handwriting was neat, controlled, deliberate, dated September 1948. Her eyes moved across the first entry, and her stomach tightened. They don't understand what they've agreed to. She turned the page. The land isn't the real value. Another. Faster now. If this fails, it cannot be undone. Her grip tightened. The writing changed. Less controlled. More urgent. Like time was running out. She flipped to the final entry. October 14th, 1948. Her breath caught. They came back today. Nothing else. No explanation. No names. No ending. Just that. Emma slowly closed the journal. But it felt heavier now. Like it carried more than words. Something had happened here. Something big enough to seal this place. Something no one wanted found. And somehow, she had just walked into it. Behind her, the cabin creaked. Soft. Subtle. Not from wind. Not from movement. Just settling. Emma turned her head slightly, listening. Every instinct in her body sharpened, because something had changed. She could feel it. The air felt different, thicker, closer. And for the first time since stepping inside, the cabin didn't feel empty anymore. Emma felt it before she understood it. Something inside the cabin had changed. The silence wasn't empty anymore. It was listening. She didn't move. Not at first. She stood there holding the journal, her fingers tightening slightly around its edges, waiting, as if the cabin might react. But nothing happened. Just the faint creak of wood. And that feeling that they weren't alone anymore. Mia, come here, Emma said quietly. Too quietly. Mia walked toward her, small footsteps soft against the floor. What is it? She asked. Emma forced her face to stay calm. Stay close to me. Don't go anywhere alone. Mia nodded, but her eyes had changed. More careful now. More aware. Like she felt it too. Emma looked back down at the journal. They came back today. The words felt different now. Heavier. Less like a memory. More like a warning. She flipped through the earlier pages again. Slower this time. More focused. Looking for anything she had missed. Patterns. Names. Something real. And then she saw it. A single letter. Repeated. Again and again. H. Her breath slowed. Her eyes moved across the entries. H says no one will question it. H insists everything will go through. H is pushing harder now. Emma's grip tightened. Who was H? And why did it feel like whoever that was still connected to this place? Mom, look. Emma turned instantly. Mia stood near the kitchen area, pointing into an open cabinet. Emma walked over quickly. Inside, rows of glass jars, sealed, labeled, food, preserved, perfect. Emma frowned. This doesn't make sense. Why? Mia asked. Emma shook her head slowly. Because whoever lived here wasn't planning to leave. Everything in this cabin said the same thing. The table, the coat, the untouched room, the life that had been paused, not ended. Then it hit her. The bed. I didn't check the bedroom. Her voice was sharper now. Faster. She moved quickly, pushing the door open. Inside, nothing had changed. Everything was perfect. The bed neatly made, clothes folded, a lamp resting quietly on the table. And beside it, a photograph. Emma stepped closer, picked it up, and froze. It was her grandfather, younger, standing right outside this cabin. But he wasn't alone. There was another man beside him, well-dressed, confident, out of place. Emma stared at his face. Her stomach tightened. She had seen him before. Not in person, not in memory. In stone. A statue. Standing in the center of a town she once passed through. A name carved beneath it. A man people respected. A man people trusted. A man who had built everything around here. Emma's breath caught. What are you doing here? She whispered. She flipped the photo over, and everything inside her went still. 3 words. Written clearly. Trust no one. Her fingers tightened, because she knew those words. Not from here. Not from this cabin. From somewhere else. Something old. Something buried in her memory. And now, they didn't feel like advice. They felt like a warning. Mom, I don't like this place, Mia said softly. Emma looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time since they arrived, curiosity disappeared, replaced by something colder. Fear. Because this wasn't just a cabin. It wasn't just an inheritance. It was evidence. Proof that something had gone wrong. Something big enough to disappear. Something powerful enough to stay hidden. Emma stepped back into the main room. Slowly. Her eyes scanning everything again. The table. The calendar. The door. The fireplace. She stopped. Something was off. The stones. Most were old. Worn. But one didn't match. Cleaner. Less aged. Wrong. Emma moved toward it, her heartbeat rising again. She knelt down, ran her fingers across the surface, pressed. It shifted. She froze, then pushed harder. The stone slipped loose and dropped forward with a dull thud. Mia gasped. Mom! Behind it, a hidden space, small, dark, untouched. Emma reached inside, her hand trembling now, not from doubt, not even from fear, from understanding, because whatever had been hidden here was never meant to be found. Her fingers brushed against something, wrapped, carefully, protected. She pulled it out slowly. A bundle. Cloth, aged but intact. Her breath grew shallow as she began to unwrap it, layer by layer, slower, careful, until finally, the last fold slipped away, and Emma froze, because what she was holding wasn't just proof. It was the reason the cabin had been sealed, and the reason Someone might not want it opened again. Emma didn't answer immediately, because something about their voices felt rehearsed, like they expected resistance, like they had been here before. Her grip tightened around the documents, and that's when it hit her. This wasn't just about land. It was about control. Control over something that had been hidden for decades. Something that someone had gone to great lengths to protect. And now, they were trying to take it back. She looked at Mia, then at the door. Her decision was made. She stepped forward, not opening it, but refusing to back away. "Whoever you are," Emma said firmly, "this doesn't belong to you." Silence. Then, a faint shift outside. Not anger, not frustration, but recognition, because they had heard that before. A long time ago. Emma held her breath, waiting. Then the man spoke again, calm, measured, almost amused. "Then I'm afraid you don't understand what you're standing on." Emma froze. Her eyes dropped to the documents in her hands, then slowly lifted, because now she understood something far worse than fear. This wasn't just a property dispute. This was a legacy, and she had just stepped into something that someone had been protecting for generations. Behind her, the cabin creaked again, but this time, Emma didn't turn around, because whatever was in this place was no longer just history. It was active, and it had just been reawakened. Emma didn't move for a long time after the car disappeared. She stood by the door, listening, not for sound, but for absence, because silence out here didn't always mean safety. Only when the forest slowly returned to its natural rhythm did she finally exhale. "They're gone," Mia whispered. Emma nodded. "For now." She locked the door firmly, then turned back to the table. The bundle still waiting, but it didn't feel the same anymore. Before, it was a mystery. Now, it was a target. She unwrapped it again, slower this time, more careful, because now she understood something she hadn't before. These weren't just documents. They were the reason someone had come looking. She spread them across the table. Light slipped through the cracks in the boards, falling directly onto the pages, like they were meant to be found. Emma leaned closer, reading, studying, piecing it together. Her grandfather hadn't just owned the cabin. He had owned everything around it. The mountains, the land, miles of it, untouched, unclaimed, valuable, more valuable than anyone would ever admit. Emma's breath slowed. This can't be real. But it was. Every page confirmed it. Every line sealed it. Then she found the contract again. The one that felt wrong. The one that wasn't finished. A transfer agreement between her grandfather and Hollow Ridge Development. Emma stared at the name, her stomach tightening. So this was it. Not random. Not coincidence. A deal. Made decades ago, but never completed. She flipped through the pages again. Faster now. Searching. And then she saw it. A clause. Small. Buried deep in legal language. Easy to miss. The agreement would only be valid upon final signature. Emma leaned back slowly, her pulse rising, because that signature was never there. "That means," she whispered, "the deal had never gone through," which meant everything was still his. And now, it was hers. Mia looked up at her. "What does that mean?" Emma looked down at the papers. then at her daughter. Her voice quieter now, heavier. It means someone tried to take this from him. A pause. And they never stopped trying. Outside, the wind moved through the trees again, but it didn't sound the same. It sounded sharper, closer, like something was listening. Emma gathered the documents quickly, wrapping them tight, protecting them. "We're leaving," she said. "Now." Mia hesitated. "Why?" Emma looked at her, and this time she didn't hide it. "Because they already know." The walk back felt longer, every step heavier than the last. The forest didn't feel empty anymore. It felt watched. Every branch snapping underfoot, too loud. Every shadow, too still. Emma didn't stop moving, didn't slow down, because deep down, she understood something now. Those men hadn't arrived by chance. They had been waiting, waiting for someone to open that cabin, waiting for someone to find what was inside, waiting for her. By the time they reached the road, the light had started to fade. The bus stop stood empty, silent, still. Emma held Mia close, her eyes scanning everything, the trees, the road, the distance. And then she saw it, a black car, parked far down the road, engine off, windows dark, but not empty, watching, waiting. Emma's grip tightened. Her heart started pounding again, because this time, it didn't feel like a coincidence. It felt like a decision, like they had already chosen not to leave. Mia's voice was barely a whisper. "Mom!" Emma didn't respond. She couldn't, because now she understood something far worse than before. This wasn't about the cabin anymore. It wasn't even about the land. It was about control. And whoever controlled the truth, controlled everything. The car didn't move. But it didn't have to. Because Emma knew they weren't going anywhere. And neither was she. Emma didn't wait at the roadside for long. The black car in the distance had already made the decision for her. "We're not taking the bus," she said quietly. Mia looked up. "Then how do we go?" Emma tightened her grip on her hand. "We walk." They didn't look back. Not once. But Emma could feel it, that pressure in the air, like something had noticed them and hadn't looked away. The car never moved. And somehow, that made it worse. Hours later, they reached the nearest town. Small, quiet, alive. The kind of place where everything should feel normal. And for a moment, it did. Emma exhaled slowly. For the first time since opening the cabin, it felt like they had stepped out of something, but not away from it. "Stay close," she said. Mia nodded. Emma's eyes scanned the street, not for people, for answers, for something official, something that couldn't lie. It didn't take long to find it. A government building, faded sign, old structure, still standing. The county records office. Emma walked inside, without hesitation. The air smelled like paper, dust, time. Behind the counter, a woman looked up, her expression neutral, but her eyes sharp. "Can I help you?" Emma placed the wrapped bundle on the desk, carefully, deliberately. "I need to verify property ownership." The woman nodded, unwrapped the documents. At first, nothing changed, just routine. But then, her expression shifted, slightly. Confusion, then surprise, then something else. Something she didn't hide fast enough. concern. These are old, she said slowly. Very old. I know, Emma replied. Are they valid? The clerk didn't answer. Not immediately. She turned to her computer. Typed. Paused. Typed again. Her posture changed. Subtle. But Emma noticed. The seconds stretched. Too long. Finally, the woman looked up. There's no completed transfer on record. Emma felt her pulse rise. What does that mean? The clerk hesitated. Just for a second. It means the land was never legally transferred. Silence. Heavy. Unavoidable. Emma already knew. But hearing it made it real. So the owner is? She asked. The clerk looked at her now. Differently. Carefully. The original owner, she said. Or their legal heir. Emma swallowed. That's me. The words felt strange. Like they didn't belong to her. But they did. The clerk blinked. Studying her. Not as a stranger anymore. As something else. Something important. Something exposed. You should speak to a lawyer, she said quickly. As soon as possible. Emma nodded. But something about the way she said it didn't feel like advice. It felt like a warning. When Emma stepped back outside, something had changed. The town didn't feel the same. It wasn't just people anymore. It was attention. Eyes lingering too long. Conversations stopping too fast. Whispers that didn't quite fade. Word had spread. Faster than it should have. The heir to the Pine Hollow land had arrived. And it wasn't who anyone expected. Emma's grip tightened around Mia's hand. Because now she understood something new. This place wasn't neutral. That afternoon, her phone rang. Unknown number. Emma answered anyway. A calm voice spoke. Controlled. Careful. Miss Emma, we'd like to arrange a meeting. She didn't ask who it was. She didn't need to. Hollow Ridge Development, the voice continued. Emma's eyes lifted, scanning the street again, because now she knew. They didn't just exist out there. They were here. Tomorrow, the voice said. Our office. A pause. Then softer. It would be in your best interest. Emma smiled. But it didn't reach her eyes. Because now she understood something they didn't. They thought she had just discovered the truth. But she had discovered something else too. How far it reached. No, she said calmly. Silence. Then she added, it would be in yours. And she ended the call. Mia looked up at her. Mom, are we safe now? Emma didn't answer immediately. Her eyes moved across the town. The people. The windows. The spaces in between. Because safety wasn't something she felt anymore. Only awareness. And for the first time, Emma realized something unsettling. She wasn't running anymore. But that didn't mean they had stopped chasing. Emma didn't rush into the meeting. That was the first decision she made. If they wanted something from her, they could wait. The next morning, she walked into the tallest building in town. Glass walls. Polished floors. Everything about it reflected control. Power. Money. Everything she hadn't had. Until now. Mia held her hand tightly. Are you scared? She whispered. Emma looked down at her. Smiled softly. No. But something in her chest didn't fully agree. Inside, the receptionist didn't ask questions. She already knew who Emma was. Everyone did. They were escorted upstairs, past quiet hallways, closed doors, watching eyes. into a conference room, large table, floor-to-ceiling windows, and 3 men waiting, the same kind of men who had stood outside the cabin, calm, controlled, but today, more careful. "Miss Emma," one of them said, standing, "thank you for coming." She didn't shake his hand, didn't sit right away. She placed the documents on the table first, then slowly took her seat. "I think we should skip the formalities," she said. The room stilled. A glance passed between them. "Of course," the man replied. Professional smile. "But tighter now. We believe there's been some confusion regarding the land." "There isn't." Emma didn't raise her voice, but it cut clean. She opened the documents, turned them toward them. "The transfer was never completed," she said. "No signature. No legal confirmation." Silence. One of the men shifted. Another leaned forward slightly, watching her more closely now. "You've built on land that was never legally yours." The words hung in the air, heavy. For the first time, they didn't respond immediately. The lead man cleared his throat. "We can resolve this." Emma nodded. "I agree." A pause. Then, "We're prepared to offer compensation." Emma almost smiled. Almost. Because now she knew exactly what they thought. That she didn't understand. That she would settle. "I'm not interested in compensation." That changed everything. The room shifted. Subtly. "What exactly are you asking for?" one of them said. Emma leaned back. Calm. Certain. Recognition. They frowned. "Full legal acknowledgement that the land belongs to me." Silence. "And?" the lead man asked. Emma didn't hesitate. "A percentage of every development built on it." This time, no one moved. Because they understood. This wasn't payment. This was ownership. Permanent. Power. "That's not standard," one of them said carefully. Emma tilted her head slightly. "Neither is building on land you don't own." Silence again. Longer. Heavier. They leaned toward each other, whispering, calculating, because without her, everything stopped. Finally, the lead man sat back, exhaled slowly. "And the cabin?" he asked. Emma's expression softened slightly. "It stays exactly as it is." A pause. "Restored. Protected. Under my name." The men exchanged one more look. Something unspoken passed between them. Then, a nod. Slow. Reluctant. Agreed. Emma didn't react immediately. That was the second decision she made. Because something about it felt too easy. She closed the folder, stood up, and for the first time, they stood with her, not above her. "Equal." "Have the contract ready," she said. Then she turned, took Mia's hand, and walked out. But just before she reached the door, she heard it. Quiet. Almost too quiet to notice. One of the men spoke. Not to her. To someone else in the room. "Inform them it's active again." Emma paused. Just for a fraction of a second. Then kept walking. Not reacting. Not turning back. But something inside her shifted. Because she understood one thing clearly now. They hadn't just agreed to her terms. They had confirmed something. Something she hadn't even asked about. Outside, Mia looked up at her. "Did we win?" she asked. Emma looked down at her, then ahead. Her expression calm, controlled, but her eyes more alert than before. "I think," she said quietly. We just started something. The contract was signed a week later. Not rushed. Not forced. Every line reviewed. Every condition clear. Emma didn't make the same mistake her grandfather almost did. She read everything. Twice. Because this time, nothing would be left unfinished. When she finally signed her name, it didn't feel overwhelming. It felt steady, like something long forgotten had finally come full circle. Hollow Ridge kept their word. They had no choice. The agreement changed everything. Emma wasn't just compensated. She was recognized. The legal owner of the land. A partner. A name that could no longer be ignored. Within days, things began to shift. Quietly, but permanently. Calls came in. Lawyers. Advisors. People who once would have never noticed her. Now waiting for her decisions. But Emma didn't rush. For the first time in her life, she wasn't chasing survival. She was choosing her future. And she knew exactly where to start. The cabin. When she returned to the mountains, it felt different. Not empty. Not haunted. Just still. Like it had been waiting. Workers had already begun restoring it. Carefully. Nothing erased. Nothing replaced without reason. The old metal seal. Now framed on the wall. A reminder of what had been hidden. And why. Mia ran ahead into the clearing, laughing. Free. Is this really ours? She asked again. Emma looked around. The cabin. The trees. The land stretching endlessly beyond sight. Everything her grandfather had protected. Everything he refused to give away. Yes, Emma said softly. But now she understood something deeper. The journal. The hidden documents. The unfinished deal. The warning. Trust no one. He hadn't been afraid. He had been careful. He had seen something coming, and instead of fighting it, he had hidden the truth, and waited for someone who wouldn't be tempted, someone who would question everything, someone who wouldn't stop halfway, someone like her. Emma stepped inside the cabin. The air felt lighter, no longer trapped in time. Alive. She walked to the table, ran her fingers across the surface. 70 years ago, something had been interrupted here. Now, it was finished. Mom, can we stay here tonight? Mia asked. Emma smiled. A real one. Yeah, she said. We can. Outside, the wind moved gently through the trees. Soft. Calm. At peace. But later that night, when the cabin fell quiet, Emma couldn't sleep. Not because of fear. Because of something else. A thought that wouldn't settle. She got up slowly. Walked back to the main room. The fire barely glowing. Shadows stretching across the walls. Her eyes drifted to the framed metal seal. Then to the fireplace. The stone she had moved. Now sealed again. Restored. Perfect. Emma stepped closer. Something about it felt wrong. Not obvious. Not clear. Just off. She reached out, pressed lightly against the stone. It didn't move. Of course it didn't. It had been fixed. Rebuilt. Sealed properly this time. Emma exhaled softly, almost laughed at herself, turned to walk away, then stopped. Because behind her, very faint, very subtle, she heard it. A sound. From inside the wall. Not loud. Not clear. But unmistakable. A soft knock. Emma didn't move. didn't turn around, because suddenly, she understood something her grandfather never wrote. Some things weren't meant to stay hidden. They were meant to stay contained. And this time, the seal was already broken.